Imagine a normal morning in New York City. Millions of people are waking up. Subways are filling. Coffee shops are opening. Wall Street traders are preparing for another day. The skyline looks exactly as it always has. Then suddenly, something appears high above the atmosphere. A missile, traveling faster than 15,000 miles per hour. And within minutes, the unthinkable happens. The sky over Manhattan becomes brighter than the sun. In a single blinding flash, the largest city in the United States changes forever. Today, we're asking a chilling question. What would actually happen if Iran launched a nuclear missile and it struck New York City? Not a movie scenario, not political speculation, a real strategic breakdown of what would happen in the first seconds, the first hours, and the first days after such an event. Because once a nuclear weapon is used, history may never be the same again. The moment a nuclear missile launches anywhere on Earth, American satellites see it almost instantly. Hundreds of miles above the planet, infrared sensors constantly watch for the heat plume of ballistic missiles leaving the ground. Within seconds of launch, the warning reaches U.S. defense networks. Inside military command centers in Colorado and Washington, alarms begin sounding. Screens light up. Data streams in. Trajectory calculations begin immediately. If the system determines that the missile is heading toward the United States, the response is automatic. Missile defense systems activate. Interceptors prepare for launch. Military commanders scramble to confirm one terrifying question. Is this a real nuclear attack or a false alarm? Because with intercontinental ballistic missiles, there is almost no time to hesitate. These weapons travel through space at hypersonic speeds. From launch to impact, the entire journey could take roughly 30 minutes. That means every decision that could determine the fate of millions of people must be made within minutes. But imagine that this time, the worst-case scenario becomes reality. The missile cannot be stopped, and the warhead reaches its target. The nuclear warhead detonates high above Manhattan, not on the ground, but in the air. This is called an airburst, and it is designed to maximize destruction. In less than 1,000th of a second, a fireball forms. Temperatures inside that fireball are hotter than the surface of the sun. Everything within the center of the explosion simply vanishes. Concrete, steel, glass, entire buildings. They are not destroyed in the normal sense. They are vaporized. In the next second, an enormous shock wave explodes outward from the blast. Moving faster than the speed of sound, it slams into the city. Skyscrapers bend and collapse. Windows shatter across miles of neighborhoods. Cars flip through the streets like toys. Bridges shake violently. The blast wave alone could flatten much of Midtown Manhattan. But the explosion doesn't stop there. The intense thermal radiation ignites fires across the city. Clothing bursts into flames. Buildings ignite. Entire city blocks become infernos. Within minutes, hundreds of individual fires begin merging into something even more terrifying. A massive firestorm. Winds generated by the heat begin pulling oxygen inward at hurricane speeds. Flames race through the streets. Temperatures climb to hundreds of degrees. Entire districts burn uncontrollably. For millions of people, there would be almost no warning and almost nowhere to run. At the same moment the explosion is detected, the United States government enters its highest level of emergency. The president is rushed into states, maintains what is called the nuclear triad. 3 separate systems capable of launching nuclear weapons. Land-based intercontinental ballistic missiles, submarine-launched missiles hidden beneath the oceans, and nuclear-capable strategic bombers. This system exists for one reason: to guarantee that if the United States is ever attacked with nuclear weapons, it can respond immediately and overwhelmingly. Within minutes of the New York detonation, intelligence agencies would be racing to confirm exactly who launched the attack. Satellite tracking, radar data, missile signatures, all analyzed rapidly. If Iran were confirmed as the source of the strike, the consequences would be enormous, because under long-standing U.S. nuclear doctrine, a nuclear attack on American territory would trigger massive retaliation. Stealth bombers could be launched. Cruise missiles could strike hundreds of targets. Military installations, missile launch sites, command centers, air defenses, naval bases. Iran's military infrastructure could be devastated within hours, and if nuclear retaliation were authorized, the destruction could reach levels the world has not seen since the Cold War. This is the logic behind nuclear deterrence, not because nations want to use nuclear weapons, but because the cost of using them becomes so catastrophic that no rational government wants to risk it. But the consequences would not stop with the destruction of a city. The entire planet would feel the shockwaves. Financial markets would collapse instantly. Global trade could freeze. Air travel across large parts of the world might shut down. Oil shipments through the Persian Gulf could halt overnight. Energy prices could skyrocket. Military alliances would activate. NATO countries would move into emergency coordination. Russia and China would enter their own crisis command structures. The risk of escalation would suddenly become the most dangerous issue facing humanity. Because when one nuclear weapon is used, the fear of a second and a third and a fourth begins immediately. And that fear is what has shaped global strategy for more than 70 years. The terrifying reality is that modern nuclear weapons are far more powerful than the bombs used in World War II. Many warheads today are dozens of times stronger. One single missile can destroy an entire city, just one. And that is why every nuclear power understands the stakes. Because the moment the sky over a city becomes brighter than the sun, the world that existed seconds before is already gone. The question humanity has wrestled with ever since the nuclear age began is simple. Not whether these weapons work, but whether they will ever be used again. And if they are, how much of the world will still be standing afterward? Thank you for tuning in on Money and Nations. Don't forget to subscribe.